Welcome to the Emblazing Leaders Vodcast. I'm your hostess, Dr. Talisa Sullivan. Join me as we hear from leaders across diverse fields around the world. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the Emblazing leaders out there, wherever you are. I have the pleasure of having Dr. Julie Hong with me today, and I just want to say what a blessing it is for us to engage and encounter each other. I'm going to do a little introduction of you, Dr. Hong, if you don't mind. I would love to introduce you to our Emblazing leaders. Are you good with that?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so let me tell y'all a little bit about Julie. Um, Let me tell you about her mantra. When I read this mantra, I was like, let's go, Dr. Julie. Her mantra is igniting momentum, catalyzing change, and leading with joy. So y'all know I'm going to take something like that and do something for me, and I'm going to find me a mantra too. So let me tell you, Dr. Julie doesn't just talk about change, she builds it. She's a trailblazing leader in education, innovation, and equity. She is redefining how schools ignite joy, amplifying human connection, and harnessing technology to create transformative learning experiences for all. She is the Director of Instructional Support, Innovation, and Competitive Advantage at the Riverside County Office of Education. Dr. Hung is on a mission to disrupt outdated systems and design learning environments that engage, inspire, and empower every student. Her leadership philosophy is clear. Education should spark curiosity, honor every learner's journey, and prepare students for a world that doesn't yet exist. Her personal mantra, we care, championing access, rights, and equity, reflects her deep commitment to building not exclusive, but inclusive schools where students, teachers, and communities thrive together. With over 2 decades of leadership, Dr. Hung has spearheaded transformational, multi-tiered systems of support frameworks, combining behavioral health and mental health through tiered systems of support, replicable special education models, and equity-driven systems change. Beyond her district leadership, Dr. Hung is a visionary thought leader serving as Vice President of Membership for AXA Region XIX.
Thank
I'll let
you.
her say it.
Mhm.
Region 19. Roman numerals weren't my thing. And a dedicated member of CAPL, yay, where she fosters a movement of empowered, connected, and forward-thinking leaders. Her impact has been recognized with Riverside County Office of Education Certificate Manager of the Year Award, a testament to her relentless pursuit of innovation and excellence in education. Dr. Hung brings passion, strategy, and future-focused leadership to challenge the status quo. What if schools weren't designed for compliance, but for joy? What if education embraced innovation the way the world does? This is where technology, pedagogy, and human connection, coverage, and real transformation begins. So this is Dr. Julie Hung, and I'll tell you, this is all her. I'm going to get started because I want for the Emblazing leaders out there to hear from you. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with asking these questions, and
Yes.
hopefully we'll get some answers. Dr. Julie Hung, welcome.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I feel very honored, honestly, to be able to be in this space with you. I know that we met, I think it was just last week, and
Mhm.
I reflect on that. And honestly, Dr. Sullivan, I was thinking it was an instant connection. I just felt like, wow, this is a person that I really first time meeting, but in connecting with you, understood my spirit and my passion. And we could have probably spoken for like hours. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to continue that talk.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I really am. And I want to hear from you. Our leaders want to hear from you. And so I'm going to start with the interview questions. And thank you for gracing me with your presence. We're going to start off with one question about navigating the leadership space. And so I'd like to go ahead and ask you to tell us more about your leadership journey and what would you say has shaped you as a leader?
Gosh, I would say more so than anything else, it was filling the gap or filling the needs. It's my journey into education wasn't really something that I even envisioned for myself. I never thought that I would be an educator. I've always strove to really innovate and be in the business sector. So when I turned about, my early 30s, trying to find a deeper purpose into my own existence, I found education, but I found it in the field of special education, because for me it was, how do I serve and give back to my community? And in that, I just saw so many opportunities coming from the business world into the education. And even back then, my question was, why do we do the things that we do in education? Why does it have to be this way, right? Why do students have to learn in a space where they are either not really engaged in learning? And why do we settle for students not being able to reach their full academic potential? So for me, just really harnessing that aspect of my leadership journey, I think really helped me see beyond what is possible within the classroom. So I was a teacher that said, special education teacher that said, why couldn't we collaborate with our general education partners and create reading interventions? If I have a knowledge and background in that area, why can't we just dissolve those barriers and say, I would like to work with your students as well? Like, how can we create intervention spaces for our students? Um, and then I became an administrator. And then we started thinking about all of the state testing and the academic rigor that our students need to achieve. But at the same time, we are in classrooms with stagnated practices and not really honoring students' choice and voice at that time. So how do we then incorporate? Again, there's a gap. How do we incorporate students as leaders in this type of a movement? So we started integrating technology into our classrooms. I think we were one of the first schools when I was a principal at San Onofre School on Camp Pendleton, to really embed technology and augmented reality, robotics. It was at the infancy stages, and it was so fun seeing students excited about learning. Um, and that really helped me see that designing instruction needed to be a lot more thoughtful in what our students are experiencing, not what adults want to impart our knowledge onto our students. So for me, I think those are the primary factors in how I was able to continue to lead in a space where I feel like, and even now, there are gaps to what we're seeing in classrooms, that what is, there are gaps in what we have in classrooms, but what's really happening out in society and in our surroundings.
Well, thank you for that. That's very
Mhm.
insightful, seeing beyond the possibilities. And also, I think that I know I've heard about robotics and I've seen robotics, in different spaces where students are now building their robotics and they're like competing and everything. I don't know that I've heard of it as augmented robotics. I want to hear a little bit like what is the difference between just the regular robotics and the augmented robotics?
So it's not augmented robotics, but we
Oh,
did robotics, STEM
oh, got it,
projects,
got it. Thank
and
you.
some basic coding for our students. But we also incorporated augmented reality. We had a green screen,
Ooh.
and the screen
Oh,
would be a different place. And our students would create projects, perhaps talking about the rainforest, but actually in the background, it would be a rainforest. They would write their scripts. We also had a teacher using the same augmented reality for our students with significant disabilities, where they would read a story and they would be in that story using the backdrop to be able to share. Yeah. So it
that
was
is
just a
exciting.
different way of our students really embracing what technology can do, and for them to be able to see themselves in the screen. Um, gosh, we had a lot of students writing a lot of video scripts back then.
Oh, wow, that's exciting.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
super exciting.
Mhm.
Wow, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So the next question, we're still going to stay in the navigating the leadership space, and I'd like to know, how do you foster a culture of adaptability and resilience when with your team during times of uncertainty and change? And we know that we are in some uncertain times, and things are always changing. So how do you navigate that? How do you just model adaptability and resilience?
So being in the field of special education, I think we have to adapt every day
Mhm.
students' needs. And I think, and then we're always battling ourselves to figure out, is this what's best for you, or do we need to do something better, right? And if we need to do something better, then what could it be? So we have to kind of think outside of the box for some of our students. So I think just by being enmeshed in and trained in special education, I just have naturally come to think of barriers or, hard spots, uncertainty as like an opportunity. I don't know how to explain it. It's an opportunity to reinvent and be able to think beyond what I think is possible today. Um, in Menifee, we've grown about 20 different special ed programs over the course of the last 3 years, 2.5 years. And that's because of the rapid influx in the community, people moving into the community. And also with that comes a rapid influx of students with disabilities. So if there were times of uncertainty and what we were doing in special education, that was definitely a test for all of us because we had to be able to create and innovate and refine our systems so that with the same core, right, district leadership team, we had to figure out how we continue to serve a growing population. And I have to tell you, there were a lot of angst like we can't do it. This is too much. Like we can't keep overworking. I said, so one day what I did was I did a little presentation, like a little talk for my team. And I said, you know what? I want you to envision this field. It's a farm. It's vast, it's massive, and it's beautiful. I said, envision this. You wake up as a farmer looking at this. You could be a farmer looking at this and going, that's a lot of work. Or we could be farmers saying, that is our land and we get to work it. What a blessing. So I choose to think of opportunities in the midst of uncertainty that we can go beyond what we think is possible in that moment. And I have to tell you, like during my transition from Menifee to Riverside County Office of Education, my secretary at the time shared with me something very insightful, and which something that I didn't even think that anybody would have noticed or realized. But she said it, I'm like, oh wow, she got it. And she said, you created systems so that not only are we doing more with what we currently have, but you have stretched us to believe that we can do it. And I look at that and I think about that and I go, I think that's what leaders do, right? That's what leaders do, is to believe in their people and to be able to support them, to not just do the work that's right in front of them, but to be able to see beyond what is possible right now and then get there and be able to celebrate together. So I think that's kind of like how I've led those times.
Wow, that's great. Because a lot of times when you leave, you always want to know what impact that you've made. Because sometimes you don't know the impact. And then when you hear it, it's like, oh, I set out to make an impact and I really feel like I did. So I really love hearing you say that someone actually had an opportunity to tell you about the impact
Mhm.
that you've made. I want to tell you, I also loved hearing you say barriers as possibilities. Like you were saying, like instead of thinking of a barrier as a negative, more like change it into thinking of it as possibility. The third thing that really resonated with me that you said opportunities in the midst of uncertainty. So I love that, and it's exuding leadership out of your soul. Like when
Oh,
I like again when we first encountered each other, it was like you said, it was an immediate connection, but definitely like all of the thought process that you have right now for all of the questions that we're answering are just really exuding leadership to its
oh my
fullest.
God.
So
Thank you
so
so
I'm
much.
yeah, this is so exciting. So oh wow, what a blessing today. We're gonna move into talking about experiencing triumphs, right?
Oh gosh.
So
Mhm.
can you just share with us your experience with managing up? This is the one question I love. What strategies can you share with other leaders as they navigate managing up? And you know that in this like atmosphere, we often have to manage up because sometimes we have leaders that are I'm gonna say above us because that's,
Mhm.
typically how it is. Like our supervisors, that sometimes they need a little bit of managing up. And so if you can embrace and like enlighten us with how do you navigate that?
Gosh, I think humility is so important. It's to be humble in that space. And humility, not in a sense of just being a doormat, because I think there's difference in those two things, right? Like not just saying, "Oh, you're the best," and just being like um non-directional. Like you have to have a focus. You almost have to like have a passion for something. And I think in that you better know who you are as a leader. Like you better know what you are going to stand up for. And because so many people are going to say so many different things to you. So if you want to lead up first, you have to be humble enough to be led up to. Um, and I take that with like just I take that as a strength of mine. Um, when I am in a space where I feel like, yeah, I know it all, like special education, that's my wheelhouse. Nobody's going to tell me how to do special ed, right? I know the best. But I get leadership tips from whom? My teachers,
Nice.
teachers, from my students. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Yes.
when I think about that, I'm like, am I gonna listen? Am I gonna take good advice? And what am I gonna do with that? Right? What am I gonna do with the advice that they're giving me? Well, I better see how I can even see if it's applicable. If it isn't, then how can I share with them how I love the idea and how we can change it so that we can make it a possibility. And when I think about my own experiences that way, I try to apply it in a similar way with my superiors, my supervisors, um, and try to open up a transparent, I want to say, dialogue about current situations. And one thing that's really worked for me is to just be honest, to be honest about like my visions and what I feel like is a good match for the vision of where the district is trying to go. And sometimes we may disagree, in all honesty. Like there might be a disagreement, but I would say 95% of the time, when there is an alignment with where we want to go trajectory with the district's vision, I want to say like they ask me, well, how would you make that happen? We have curious leaders serving our broad population. So they ask me, how would you make that happen? And I would give them the steps and we would continue to collaborate. So it's not a matter of leading up, it's about finding new partnerships. May it be my teachers, my student groups, my coordinators, my program specialists, or even my supervisors. So I think of it as um, partnerships in a common cause, and I approach it from that angle.
Well, I'm gonna say I absolutely see why Riverside County picked you up. I'm listening, I'm listening, and I'm like, let me write that down. Like, like you look at it as new partnerships. And I appreciate that. And I know that the people that you work with, that you serve, and the people who serve you appreciate hearing you say partnership. That's beautiful.
Oh
Wow,
gosh,
thank you.
I
Okay.
couldn't do it by myself, so absolutely.
Well, you're doing it, and I guess you have people surrounding you, and you got like all of the juju, the good juju. That's great.
Mm.
So, I'm gonna ask, and we're gonna stay on experiencing triumphs, and you've already talked a little bit about, obstacles. You mentioned barriers and things like that. But I'm gonna ask, how do you maintain positive and solution-oriented mindset when facing significant obstacles? So, how do you, like you spoke earlier about, barriers as possibilities, opportunities in the midst of uncertainty, but how do you stay positive with that and solution-oriented?
Gosh, it was during my doctorate, I want to say before 2017, so it's probably like 2016, 2015. During my course with University of Laverne, I picked up a book called much a beautiful question. I can't remember by Berger. I have it right here. Hold on. A More
Okay.
Beautiful Question by Warren Berger. Sorry, my brain kind of escaped me. I want to say that that has transformed how I think. So there are a few books that I'm just gonna just plug just because it's changed my leadership habit. A More Beautiful Question by Warren Berger. I also have, and everybody knows this one. It's the sorry, Carol Dweck's Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. So those two books specifically. I remember just being like mind blown when I went to go see Dr. Dweck at a conference at um, Cal State San Marcos. And thinking about how, as an immigrant, because I immigrated to the United States, California, when I was 5 years old. And in our heritage, Korean American, we've always had a fixed mindset. Like that's how I grew up. Like we grew up knowing like if you're not good, if you're not an artist, you'll never be an artist. If you're not a mathematician, then you're never going to be like, good at anything. Like if you don't go to college, you're not going to be successful. Like those were some of the mindsets that I grew up with. And I realized how that was setting me back. So mindset, A More Beautiful Question. If I combine those two things, that's where I see the magic happening in terms of, gosh, how do you stay positive in the midst of barriers and just things that might not be going our way? Then you ask a more beautiful question. You ask that question to see how you can get back into the growth mindset. Because anything that we say that we can do, I know that we can because I'm not here because I'm genius and smart and all of that. It's because I put a lot of hard work and dedication into developing myself. And I think that's what it takes. So you better be humble enough, but also courageous enough to invest in yourself and not give up. So those two books, I think, really helped me have a very positive mindset and how we move forward with obstacles.
Wow, what a nugget. That's a great golden nugget. And I'll say this, you are genius. That's the first thing. And I'll say that. And but also hard work does help out. And I'll say
Oh
that
gosh.
as well. So I know that we don't start out, we may not start off genius. And but we certainly show up that way. So thank you for that. I loved hearing you put that into perspective. This is great. So I'm going to move to the next question. So we're going to talk about advancing in careers because we all know that our listeners, our video watchers want to know like how do I advance if I choose to? So if you can share an instance where a particular skill or experience significantly propelled your career forward, that would be amazing. We'd love to hear that.
Oh gosh. Okay, skills. I think we're about to see education just completely flip. So I don't know if I'm going to be outdated like next year, in all honesty, right? So I try to always be ahead of the curve, not behind the curve. Like, okay, that was a 10-year ago practice. Thank you very much. I'm going to see what is in the future and then adapt my skills to the skill set that is needed to, again, fill the gap. Like, where's the gap right now as a leader? And in all of my transitions, I said that in the beginning, filling the gap, okay, finding opportunities and having the courage to really work hard, even though it's really hard, like teaching and then trying to better yourself, all of that takes a lot of time, but not giving up on yourself. So I want to say that, having the mindset to really look forward to what we're gonna need in the future. And I'm gonna give this advice for not for how I have come up in the ranks here, but it's really for the educators who have a desire to continue to move forward from this point moving forward. I am going to stress the importance of understanding the integration and technology. I think as educators that we are still in the mindset of, um, gosh, not in the classroom. Our students shouldn't be doing that in the classroom, but be that innovator, the risk taker in your classroom to see what you can have your students do. How can you create a learning environment for students so that they can be more autonomous with their own learning and then build up their self-efficacy to be problem solvers. We say that over and over, but I think there's a big paradox in education. We say students should think critically, be creative. But you know what we have in classrooms right now is modeled lessons. We have scripted programs. We have computerized programs that really take that creativity away. And there's a need there for creative leaders in our field. Technology integration, experience, I would say, gosh, if I were to take back and look back on my experiences, the one thing that helped me was to be able to collaborate with many different people from all different fields. So even though my field was special education, I navigated from special ed to principal to special ed, and then I went back to general ed. And so I weaved back and forth to be able to not just be stagnated into one field. And right now, I am just really loving my new experience after coming from Menifee in the field of special education to be able to now really dive deeper into innovative practices around education. So I would say just continue to harness your passion, never give up on that. And at the end of the day, being a leader that is passionless is a dead end job.
Absolutely.
It is. I would not want to be a superintendent that did not get to live my passion every day, right? I would
Right.
not want to be an assistant superintendent, a director, a principal that did not get to live my passion every day. So my encouragement for the leaders out there, don't stagnate, reinvent yourself. The other thing that was really critical for me is because I kind of second guessed it, but I think more and more I feel it is you better brand yourself in today's world. Like, and branding sounds easy, but really isn't because it
Mm.
takes all of you, your heart and soul, because you're putting yourself out there. If you're not going to put yourself out there like that, then it's going to be hard. Who are our teachers and our community, looking at? Like you are the front facing, right, leader. What do you stand up for? And I think more and more in this culture, that needs to be visible
Yeah.
before you step into that space. So I think branding is super important, um, as well as just making sure that you're future focused and understanding how you navigate an ever-changing educational landscape right now. We're at the precipice, I would say, of the old and what's going to happen, the new. Mm-hmm.
We absolutely are. So thank you for that. Thank you for that insight. Wow, you said future forward, so that's beautiful. And we will have some questions about future forward too, a little later on. But I do want to ask another question about I'm going to have you give a little bit of advice. So this will be a little advice that you'll give for others that are facing obstacles, right? So how have you navigated challenges or barriers in whatever role you've been in to achieve your leadership position where you are? And what advice would you give to other leaders that are facing similar obstacles?
Okay. But I'm going to dig really deep on this one.
Go, let's dig.
Oh gosh. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of barriers put in front of me. It's never been easy for me. I'll say that. I think for me, the thing that helped me kind of shift my focus and my passion and being able to live my passion every day is breaking the mold. So I broke the
Mm.
mold in a lot of things that I've done in my career. Um, and I don't know if I could say I'm proud of it, but it's helped me along for sure. Um, the other thing is really when I'm thinking about like environmental barriers, and then there's human barriers. Human barriers that I don't know what it is. I think there's space for all of us to be successful in this field, that we can help each other if there's the desire to, right? I have the desire to lead. I think we need to be okay in the space that we're all gonna help each other strive, but also help people strive for it, but also support each other in that. But sometimes that's not a reality. We have obstacles that are our own human obstacles. And one thing that I realized is sometimes in that, when we live with the trauma of continued human obstacles, I think we live in our own trauma as well. Like, I'm my own barrier. So I had to figure out really, really, like, it took me a journey to figure out, was it really that person's fault or is it my fault? Like, let's be real. I think I am my own barrier sometimes.
I'm
Why
like,
do I have to
I'm like,
believe what they believe?
right.
That's their belief and it's okay. They can believe that. But I don't have to live that history. I don't have to fulfill their belief as long as I'm fulfilling my own belief in myself. So my advice is believe in yourself. Everybody's going to say something. There's not going to be one organization that you're going to step foot in, education included, where you're going to hear everybody just cheer you on all the time. You're going to find those partners like Dr. Talisa here. I'm like, oh my God, I want to just give you a hug. But you're also going to find those that might be a barrier, but don't let that be your barrier. Only you get to choose that. Only you have the power to choose that
Wow.
yourself and move forward.
Wow, that's exciting. And when I say that's exciting, is because a lot of times we do allow for other people to dictate to who we're going to be and how we're going to lead and how we're going to move forward. And
Hmm.
you said sometimes your own barrier, and you have to make sure that you believe in yourself. And I'm like, I know, even though I know all of these things, it's a reminder, and it really feels good to be reminded to believe in yourself and to get out of your own way. And when we go offline, because I'm going to share offline just because I want this to be about you, I'll share some things. I'd like to go back to that a little later on, but I want to share how I feel like I was my own barrier, and I want to share deeply with you so you'll know, some things that you know, and I know our listeners want to hear that too. They're probably thinking, well, tell us all. I will tell you all one day, but just not today. We're going to talk about Dr. Julie today. So
Oh,
the other thing that you said was enough room. There's enough room for all of us. There's enough room for us all to be successful. And a lot of times I think that we forget, and I don't mean we as in me and you, but there are other individuals, other people that forget that there's not enough room. So I would like to say to our Emblazing leaders out there that are listening that aren't aware that there's enough room for your subordinates, for the people you serve, and for you to be successful. Move out the way and let them shine. When they shine, you will shine too. So I'm reminding you all of that today.
wow. We gotta keep telling that to each other and to ourselves.
Yes,
Let's not be afraid.
we cannot
Oh,
be.
being afraid is probably one of the worst barriers. It's like, don't be afraid. Be
Right, right. Don't be
courageous.
afraid.
Hmm.
So we're going to move into general leadership insights, and when we're done, we're going to move into some future forward questions. But how do you create an environment where honesty and transparency are valued,
Oh,
yet ensure that feedback is delivered with respect and empathy?
gosh, I really go back and forth on this because when I was a director and I had my own subordinates and I knew that there were other departments, it was really like, okay, what do we do? Sometimes, there's conflicting processes. Um, and so for me, I think above it all was trust. For me, it was building trust within my own team that really helped me be able to understand what honesty and transparency really means. Because if I'm not trusting my team members, if I'm not trusting my fellow department leaders, um, I cannot be honest with them. I cannot be transparent with them. Do you see what I'm saying, Talise? Like, it's like,
Absolutely.
first, do you trust yourself and do
Yes.
you trust others? And if that's an issue, then let's fix that first. Okay, let's fix that. Loyalty is huge for me. Loyalty is huge. And as a leader, we cannot be blindsided by what we don't know. And what I mean by that is you better have a pulse on your team
Yeah.
and the culture, um, where you're stepping your foot into. That means do your research. Do your research. Ask people. Have trusting circles. Like build your relationship. Because if you try to navigate on your own, no matter how honest and how transparent you are, guess what? Those are going to be ammunition for everybody else to come after you. So build trust, build relationships. And if you think that honesty and transparency is going to come from nowhere, that's absolutely not true. It comes from there first. Are you going to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am committed to doing this today. And if I want to do this, right, for students, then what must I change? What must I know? And what must I lead? Like we have to put those things together to build honesty and transparency that people can respect.
I'm smiling over here because as I listen to you talk about honesty and transparency, I can see what you've experienced without actually seeing it, you know. And so even though I don't really know a whole bunch, and the listeners probably want to be like, tell us, what has she experienced? Well, you're hearing her experiences, but I'm reading, you know, more behind it. And so I want to reiterate the idea that she's saying honesty and trust and transparency and all of those things come with it. And we all know still we might not get through to everyone, but we're still going to put it out there. We're still going to be trusting. We're still going to be transparent. We're still going to be honest, regardless of whether you respond or you reciprocate, right? And so thank you for those leadership tips and for that advice. That's really good stuff. But we can,
I mean,
those of us that are, I wouldn't say that I'm totally empathic. I would say that I'm very intuitive though. And so for those of us that are intuitive, we see the struggle. And we'll talk more
I'm
about.
very intuitive too. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. We got the intuition going. We got the intuition going on here. So we're gonna keep that going. One more question with general insights, leadership insights, and then we'll talk about future forward. But what practices do you follow to ensure that your actions consistently align with your values and with the principles of servant leadership?
Yeah. I've struggled with servant leadership and true transformational leadership. I'll
Hmm.
be honest. When I was going through, before I went through my doctoral program, and it was on organizational leadership,
Hmm.
I was wholeheartedly 1,000% a servant leader. Like, let me serve you. Let me serve you. My whole mantra was, let me serve you. But what are you serving? What are you serving, Julie? Right? You better know what you're trying to serve because I'm gonna go there. You're gonna be serving an idol if you don't know what you're serving, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
um don't be fooled by that, is what I want to say. Servant leadership, yes, we're here to serve
Hmm.
humanity, the goodwill, to be able to move and really transition and inspire people to do the hard work that our humanity needs, servant leadership. But in that, I think there needs to be some form of transformational leadership is you better have a purpose and a goal and
Yeah.
yeah, you better be calculative in what steps you're taking with
Hmm.
which group, which not group. They're not ready yet. They're not ready yet. Serving people who are not ready yet is not going to result in the transformation that we need. We need to build them up differently. Like they need something different, right? Do they have a knowledge gap? Do they have a mindset gap? Like, what do we need to work on? It's not just serving their needs at the end of the day. So Dr. Talisa, my philosophy about servant leadership kind of went from serving to understanding what we're really trying to serve. Is it really for the end goal and purpose of really
Hmm.
driving education in a direction that really honors our students? And if it is, how do I, as a leader, transform the mindsets, the culture for us all to get there? And to be able to do that by respecting individual needs? Absolutely. And I think there's just some intersecting areas for me in terms of those two different theories of servant leadership. But yeah, I've really tried to figure out my space in that a little bit. It's humbled me along the way.
Wow, that's really good to look at the differences and to kind of look and see who am I serving, how am I serving, and how's it going to be transformational. So those are
Hmm.
some good things. So I'm going to ask our Emblazing leaders, who are you serving? How are you serving? And how is it transformational? Because if it's not transformational, then we're just serving an idol, like you said. So
Yeah, kind of
wow.
scary.
It's kind of
Hmm.
it kind of sounds good when you hear your words because I keep looking at you and you'll hear something that I say and you're like surprised that you said it, but you said it. I'm just repeating what you said. So that's how I know you're brilliant.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. So future forward. Okay, so this is our last question, and this will not end our time together forever because we are like connected totally. And but this will end our session today. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Hmm.
Um, I'm sorry, let me say that again. What advice would your younger self give to the leader you are today? So that is
Oh,
your younger self will come in and say, "Hey, Julie, you should." What would you say to yourself today?
oh my gosh. I actually had this epiphany like a year ago because I was in this constant state of fixing problems as a director of special ed. That's all I did. My whole life was consumed with fixing problems. I was never like able to innovate and move forward. And I was in a space of like just, and I don't know if this really captures it, but I was like unhappy doing the work at a certain point. Like, where's the purpose in this, right? So I looked at how I was as a younger self and being an immigrant, not having the English language, I had to adapt very quickly. I had to know my surroundings and environment. But one thing that I absolutely remember is whatever I did, I was always like the class clown or the jokester because you know what? I didn't know how to get people's attention other than just being happy and being in the moment. And what I realized was I wasn't being in the moment because I was being in the moment and fixing everybody's problem. I didn't really have this joy that sparked my next level of innovation. So that's where my whole mantra of living my life with joy came about, sparking joy in education. And that's a reminder, and that's on my LinkedIn, what is that, descriptor of who I am is find joy, like wherever you are. Be the sparker of joy, but in order for you to first spark that joy, you better you better choose joy every day. So that's what I have learned last year.
Well, I love that, and I appreciate you bringing the joy. It really exudes out of your spirit. Trust me, people are experiencing joy when they encounter you, and I'm experiencing joy to have you on. I'm experiencing joy to be connected, and I'm
Oh,
excited. I'm excited for the journey that you're about to have before you, and I'm excited for our journey together, which we'll talk more about. I'm excited for our Blazing leaders that got a chance to hear from this beautiful and amazing soul, Dr. Julie Hung. So thank you. I want to say thank you, Dr. Julie Hung. And I want to tell our leaders out there that you can look for information on the Quantum 10 conference. I'm looking forward to having all of you. Just look for the website, www.quantum10 equityandeducation.com for more information on how you can get started with this year's conference or how you can get involved. Have a great day, everyone. And Blazing Leaders, remember, choose joy, as Dr. Julie said, and we'll look to see you in our next Emblazing Leaders podcast. So thank you again, Dr. Hung.